We're talking about the biggest winners and losers so far in the NFL offseason. I feel like this is like as far as how they did in free agency, in the draft. So it's like, how well do you think your team did this offseason? So us, we were really looking at the Lions hard. And then I feel like the Lions, and then coming off a Super Bowl appearance, not only like a tough loss. So it's like, how are you going to put the teams together? So, like, for me, my two biggest winners have to be the Lions and the Eagles, just with how they were able to have those steady diamonds hands. When you lose someone like Javon Hargrave, you lost CJ Garner Johnson, but you're able to go into the draft, replace these guys, get maybe the highest upside potential in the NFL draft, and then the Lions went out there, signed a secondary, got some elite pass rushing and linebackers, and then also got another really good running back in the draft, and then kind of got the D Swift drama out of their locker room and retooled that way.
Yeah, that's 100%. So for the Eagles and the Lions in this case, it's like these are two teams that are coming off a bunch of momentum from the offseason and from last year. Obviously, the Eagles came just short in the Super Bowl, but had the best season, most dominant team throughout the NFL. And then you get to lose a bunch of players,
Yeah.
allegedly, and then you replace them with young talent. You also get, Jalen Carter falls to you in the draft. You get Nolan Smith later on. You upgrade. I honestly think they upgrade at running back. They got rid of Miles Sanders. They're probably going to cut Boston Scott, and then they replace him with Rashard Penny and DeAndre Swift, both on the cheap. So, and they also locked up their star quarterback. And then for the Lions, their defense sucked. So they're like, you know what? That was what prevented us from making the playoffs. If we could beat the Seahawks, we would have won that. And they signed their secondary. They also got a really nice linebacker in the first round, got a new running back, and now they're looking like they're going to be world beaters.
Yeah, they're looking like they're going to be world beaters this year. And another team that could be a sneaky good world beater is two teams in the same division. But I really like what the Seattle Seahawks did in the draft this year. I like that they
Right.
got Smith and Jigba there to go with DK Metcalf. And then you also go with Kenneth Walker, have some beast defensive players that you also went out and got. You got Devon Witherspoon to par with Tyreek Woolen, who's already rated as a top 5 corner on Pro Football Focus last year. Do with that
Yeah.
as you will, but Pete Carroll likes building through a secondary. So are we going to see a return to greatness with Seattle next year? And I
Yes.
think they're going to be a huge sleeper team, because the reason why we have to point out the most improved teams in the NFC specifically is because the NFC is wide open. Jalen
Mhm.
Hurts is the clear number one quarterback. And then literally, whenever I'm like, yeah, it's Jalen Hurts and everybody else, people are like, but what about Dak in the NFC? It's like, what about Dak? Like, honestly,
No.
Jared
Different.
Goff has been to a Super Bowl, and
Yeah.
Dak has had opportunities, and it's not for lack of talent, I feel, especially with the offensive line.
Mm.
You had Amari Cooper and Zeke and CeeDee Lamb all in their prime together, with Jason Witten, and then you go out there, you lose your starting tight end, and then you were wanting to get one of these higher rated tight ends in the draft. Don't end up doing that this year. And then your major move in the offseason's Stephon Gilmore, and I think he can still be a good corner, but there's a reason why they gave him up for a 6th round pick. It's like he
Right.
struggled with injury issues. He's getting burned more often. So I feel like when we're talking about most improved teams, it's like Seattle. If the cards fall their way in the NFL season, there's a lot of injuries, a lot of attrition that sets in, but this is going to be a young team ready to go. And then that should give them an advantage, as well as what the Lions did, also picking up another great weapon at tight end.
Yeah, another team for me that I think is a winner in the offseason, division that's wide open. They decided to make some big swings is the Falcons.
Yeah.
For the Falcons, it's like they got Jordan Poyer on a pretty good deal. They also went out and got the best running back in the draft. They do have Drake London, who throughout the season had some flashes. They got Kyle Pitts. Can he pan out the way everyone projected him to be? Desmond Ritter, we don't really know. We haven't seen much from Desmond Ritter, but if he can show that he's got a little bit of promise behind a great offensive line, plus their defense last year ranked in the top 10. So for the Falcons, I feel like if we're looking at division winners, if I were to predict them now, way too early, I have the Falcons winning that division because you got the Bucks that are in a rebuild. You also have the Saints. Saints will be competitive 100%. Derek Carr, the addition of him will be nice. Um, and then the Panthers, they're another team that's, they're in a rebuild. How good will Bryce Young be right away? So I have I think the Falcons are surely to be competitive in that division.
Yeah, I like that because like the Falcons last year were really good. You go out there, take a big swing with Bijan Robinson, and then I know this was a controversy, but it's the offensive tackle doing his interview with Arthur Smith in the draft, and then he's just like, yeah, Arthur Smith just sat there. He was staring at his computer the whole time, and then he was like, I was giving him really generic answers because it was our draft interview. And then he was like, basically straight up told him to his face like, yeah, you're kind of really boring me here, man. And like
Hmm.
some people may take that the wrong way, some people may not like that, but for me that just shows that he wants to make this team a little bit flashy. He wants
Hmm.
someone a little more fun, and then he wants some young outspoken players that are going to help build a culture, because if he's straight up going out there and saying like, yeah, you're kind of boring me in draft interviews to player, that shows me like that's almost a good trait for a coach to have who's trying to rebuild a culture. Like, yeah, you can give me all these generic answers, but that's not going to help us get to the next level, which is where we're trying to push through this year. And he's like, with my defense being good, like last year, you mentioned it was in the top 10. And then this is probably the worst division in the NFL at this point with how the
Yeah.
AFC South has revamped. It's like we have a real shot to make the playoffs here, and we can probably be in your division. You can make it to the fourth or maybe the third seed if you get a couple breaks that go your way and Desmond Ritter pans out. So
Hmm.
I like the Falcons, and I actually like the culture that Arthur Smith is there. But for
Well,
me, it's just if Ritter's bad this year, does he stay around?
I think he should. I think one thing I want to see from a coach, right, is if they're talking about building a culture, do their actions correlate with the words that they're speaking? And for him, what did he go out and do? Right? He said, Peter Skoronsky, you're boring as fuck. I don't want to draft you. I
Yeah.
want to get some culture pieces. Well, he go out and gets the flashy, cocky, confident Bijan Robinson. And then on the other side of the ball, he gets Jordan Poyer, who
Yeah.
defensive leader, been on the Bills for the last 10 years or so, really fundamental in building that great defense and, getting those guys up in order. So his actions have spoke for his words. So definitely think that the Falcons are building something nice there. They
Yeah.
overachieved last year. We had them winning like 3 games. They end up winning 7, and they were close in every game.
Yeah. Real sneaky free agency, too.